From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine with Nick Beres.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine on this Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. We're getting it going. And the big number we can talk about this morning is $50 million. Did someone win the lottery? No. This is not lottery money we're talking about, but as you know, the issue of homelessness here in, just about wherever you happen to live, that's an issue. And it certainly is one here in Middle Tennessee and Nashville for sure. And this past week, you heard about the federal pandemic money that was there to be spent as cities choose to do so. And the mayor and the council and everyone else talking about what are we going to do about the issue of homelessness. And it's going to be one big step in that direction, a lot of people believe, by setting aside some $50 million to address temporary and permanent housing here in the city for those experiencing homelessness. And we want to talk about that this morning. Okay, just throwing money at a problem, and that's a lot of it, is by itself not going to do it. It's going to be how that money is spent now that it's set aside for that. And we're going to talk about it this morning and invite you to join in the conversation. If you agree, disagree, have thoughts about how this might move forward, we'd love to hear from you. We'll get the number up there in a moment, 737-7587, as you know. But joining us today to talk about it, kind of walk us through and where we go now that the money's on the table, to find guests that are going to be in the middle of all of this as we move on. And April Calvin's with us. She's the interim director of the Metro Homeless Impact Division. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. And Kimberly Bowden is with us as well, Landlord Engagement Specialist, and we'll talk about what that all means. But let me ask you both, just as we get started here, the first thing that catches people's attention, $50 million. Okay, that's a lot of money. But it's going to take more than just that to get this done. What was your thought that this is finally on the table? Really sets the stage, April?
Yes, really sets the stage. I was super excited that the mayor had the leadership and courage in order to be able to present a plan as such. Also want to say thank you to Metro Council for approving this $50 million. And so $50 million is divided into 4 different buckets or investment priorities. And it starts with knowing that, as you said, money will not resolve this.
Right.
There's a lot of wraparound resources, support services, and affordable housing that's tied into these funds.
You feel the same way, I bet?
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel that this will really help us as we take that next step to get our unsheltered neighbors housed. And
yeah, I mean, because as we both know, the issue, all 3 of us know, the homelessness is a big problem. Yes. Everywhere, and here especially, affordable housing in the city, and that's where we're going to get into this with the landlords in a moment. But the breakdown as it kind of goes, right, as you said, into different groupings, $50 million, all right, and we're going to get into the basics of all this here with our guests, but $25 million goes toward building affordable homes through low-cost loans.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one. All right, they'll reach out to existing construction projects, offer incentives to set aside units for low-income renters.
Yes.
Meaning that they can have some of the real high-end stuff.
Yes.
But that part of the deal to get some of the money from this pool is that you have to agree to set a percentage.
You have to agree to set a percentage aside for people entering through what's called the coordinated entry process. So there's a coordinated entry process for our continuum of care where people that are experiencing homelessness are entered into our database, and they will agree to accept clients that we make referrals for. So looking to house the most vulnerable. Also, this is a scattered site, so not all one property or one project, which is where we know the clients tend to have more success.
Okay, so for instance then, let's just say a builder, a construction project gets into effect, they get a portion of money, they say, look, we're going to agree to do this, and out of this fund they get, a few $100,000 to help, or I don't know how much each project will get, do you know?
No, I don't. There's an RFP process that MDHA, so we are partnering with MDHA for that $25 million. MDHA will put out an RFP request for funding proposal where developers can apply. So depending on the applications that come in, I think we're averaging 120 units will be secured through that process.
Okay, and so if they go ahead and build this, they get some of the money through the application process to build it. In exchange for that money, they'll have a structure built, and the majority of the units may be, more expensive, high-end ones.
Yes.
But in the same complex, it doesn't mean they'll be run down or less, not as good. It's just they're going to say part of the deal here is you have to set aside a percentage of what you've built that's more affordable housing.
Yes.
It's not going to cost people as much to move in there.
No, this is basically buying the affordability. So it's a gap loan. I do want to express that is a loan process through MDHA.
Oh, okay, so it's a loan process.
And it's gap funding, meaning that as they're building their properties, funding or financing ran short. So there was a gap that was created in the finance. So they're going to utilize a loan process like this in order to create the affordability for those that may be 30% or below the actual AMI.
Okay, and so it's probably a lower interest loan?
Yes.
Would be the idea. And the folks who end up moving in or purchasing some of these lower, priced units, I assume will have to have some agreement that they can't turn around and sell them.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you're in there and go, oh, I got this for, and these others, I can turn around and sell this, right? That's not, they're going to have to sign an agreement that if you move in here, I don't know, a period of 5 years, I don't know what that'll be, but it's not going to be where they can get in there and just turn around and flip it.
Well, the developers will sign a 20 to 25 year affordability statement with their RFP process.
Okay, and so you think the units that will be built, will they be rentals then?
Oh yes, they'll be rentals.
Then
yes.
I was talking about the people moving in, but if they're renting it, they don't have to turn around. But they'll have to make sure that they have 25-year sign. Okay.
Yes.
All right. The next thing, $9 million will be used to build 7 additional mobile housing centers. I guess like those already in place at Bellevue Church over there.
Bellevue United Methodist, and one that's in Madison. There's one that's coming online this month, McKendree, right downtown Nashville.
Well, how do they work? Walk me through that.
Oh, it's awesome. It's an immediate housing option during a time of less shelters or higher barrier shelters. These offer low barrier, moving people in pretty fast. They go through that coordinated entry process as well. So it's taking the unsheltered from the streets and offering them immediate housing. They'll have a support service that's connected with them. They provide the support services that they need in order to be able to maintain or move towards housing.
Okay, and so I guess how that works, and I guess we've seen it work over at Bellevue United Methodist, it's, as you said, it's low barrier housing, so they can get in. It's not like all that last month rent and a bunch of background checks that take forever and all this. But at the same time, if you're taking someone who is homeless, maybe someone living in tents somewhere along Cumberland River, moves in, they agree, they go through the process to get in there, then they have to find a way to, get a job, work, and do all of that, right?
They'll have the wraparound services that are needed. So there's a case manager, there's social workers. They also have peer-to-peer mentors that will help them along the way. So they'll connect them to resources, help them get their identification, help them find jobs, and then also help connect them to housing, which is the ultimate goal.
And do you have a sense, looking at how things have gone over at the 2 locations where it's doing, I mean, are there many people wanting to do this and willing? Sometimes, it takes some convincing. Some of the folks out there that are living homeless, they say this how they choose to live at that moment, one reason or another. I think most of them would much prefer to have a place to live. Yeah. But what's the response been? I
think it's where they find community. Community is important to everyone, so it's where they find community. Also, choice, having choice in the options that they choose. So that's why that $9 million is. It's great because it offers a variety of choices for people. So depending on the location, safety, there's several concerns on why people would choose to move into one location or the other.
Do you know how they're going to decide where the new locations are going to go?
Actually, Ryan Lasore, of the Executive Director of Community Care Fellowship, he is vetting and partnering with several other churches around town.
So you think it'll be through with churches?
Yes, it will be connected with churches.
Great, great. Okay, and then this one here, I think we can get Kimberly's comment on $7 million, right? It's going to go to incentivize landlords to ease renting restrictions. Examples include a sober requirement or blocking those with criminal records. That can be, those are barriers, aren't they?
Right.
So what do you think? How will that work?
Well, I think that's going to be very helpful. We're going to, we currently are already incentivizing our landlords. As long as they're agreeing to lower barriers as far as criminal histories, backgrounds, things of that nature, then we're offering bonus incentives to them if they agree to do that. The bonus incentives up front can be $2,000 for the first 5 units that are leased up. and then after that, it's $500.
So what do you mean
per lease
500?
up.
That's 500. What do you mean? How will that be paid?
It'll be a $500 sign-on bonus.
Okay, bonus. One-time bonus.
One-time bonus. Each time for each lease up. So say they begin to, they sign up and they're going to lower barriers. The first 5 lease ups that they do, it'll be $2,000 for those first 5 lease ups.
So meaning one moves in.
One moves in.
Through no barriers because they've dropped that. And then the landlord will get a
$2,000 sign-on bonus on top of the security deposit and any of those other things. So that $2,000 will be theirs to keep. No, it's not.
Okay, so
this is incentivizing, just to incentivize landlords to take the most vulnerable and helping our clients to be competitive in a very competitive housing market.
Yeah, can you walk me through? I'm trying to think some other ones. You just named them. What are some of the other barriers that really, get in the way of folks getting a place? And I think you mentioned, okay, maybe if there's a criminal background or something like that. I guess, credit. Credit, owing old landlords. Sometimes they're maybe owe some old utility bills, things of that nature. Mostly that's pretty much what we see a lot of. Those are the 2 biggies, I would think, right?
Those are the 2 big ones.
And one more would be income, making 3 times the income. A lot of landlords or property managers would require that. And, our participants sometimes, when you're thinking 0 to 30% of the AMI, that's the income bracket of those that are sleeping outside. So being able to lower that barrier, because there are subsidies will come along with this as well. So of course we know the rent has to be paid, but I see that eye.
Oh, I'm wondering, how that works.
So the rent has to be paid. So there are subsidies that'll go along with that. MDHA, they're a great partner. They offer some affordable voucher options and other subsidies. There's a lot of partners in Nashville that have what's called rapid rehousing funds. That's through the federal government. So their rent will be paid with subsidies.
Just as we go to the break, do you have off the top of your head, and we can both guess, all 3 of us, I guess, how much does it really cost someone these days to rent a unit in Nashville? Now, I'm not talking about these new ones, but right now, how expensive is it?
Oh, it's pretty expensive.
What are we talking? What are we talking a month? If you're lucky, finding a place that's in decent shape and a small studio somewhere in town, minimum what?
I would say around 15, maybe.
15, and that's the bare bones, maybe for 400 square feet if you're lucky, and maybe a place. And that's not counting then to get in there when you talk about Beres first and last month's rent or whatever, or hooking up utilities. It's expensive. And that's the bottom line, And okay, well, listen, we'll take a break on that. That's why we're doing this. We're going to take some phone calls, 737-7587. Questions or comments as we move forward on how this money will be spent. Our 2 guests involved in all this. You'll be ready to take some of those questions, and we've got much more to cover as well as we move forward. $50 million to address housing for the homeless here in Nashville. We'll be back right after this.